Christopher Hayden. Seeing as it's the first episode of the series, I'm going to go ahead and mainly focus on the different types of formatting. I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, talk about future topics for later episodes, and focus on a specific topic, one that's kind of been a recent experience of mine that I think a lot of other people have also experienced, though it's been the first time for me, and we'll go ahead and get into that in a little bit. I think a good way to start, though, would be to speak a little bit about my background and my interests in the paranormal. I think, like most kids, I loved Halloween, I loved ghost stories, I loved monster stories, and I kind of always had that, deep-rooted interest in the topic, but it wasn't until I was a teenager and my family moved into an old farmhouse that I think things really sparked my interest. I think a lot of people's stories about how they got interested in the paranormal and specifically in ghosts would follow the same sort of thing, as far as moving in an old house, having strange, unexplainable experiences happen to you and your family, and then wanting to seek out answers. And that's basically how I got interested in the topic. And that was 12 to 13 years ago now, and I've kind of really been vested and interested in the paranormal, specifically in terms of ghosts and studying it, for over 10 years now. I originally started off kind of just doing my own thing and seeing what I could find out on my own as far as reading material. Eventually, I kind of went ahead and started to put together a ghost hunting kit just based on the different tools of the trade, I guess you could say, that a lot of the more popular or famous authors and experts in the paranormal community suggested. I was pretty amateur, so I didn't really know exactly what I needed, but I knew that I wanted to kind of get out there and see if I couldn't find my own answers for some of the things that had happened in my past, and see if I couldn't experience anything new. In talking with my dad, he's kind of always shared the same feelings, so we decided that we were going to go ahead and start a ghost hunting group, which was all the rage around that time, thanks to certain popular television shows about the subject. And we did not have trouble finding other people that were interested in joining the group as well. This was in northern Indiana, and because of that, we were kind of lucky enough to start off going to one of the more famous haunted places in the United States, a place that a lot of people consider maybe the most haunted place, which is the Waverly Hills Sanitarium in Kentucky. We jumped, I guess you could say, feet first in, and wanted to go big on our first official group hunt. And though nothing really happened during the overnight stay, we did end up getting a lot of really good, solid EVPs from that night of different types and different classes. So that kind of kept us going as far as, the shock value of, wow, this stuff, it's really real, and let's go see if we can't find more. That led us to going to some of the more famous places in our general area, like Prospect Place in Ohio. We went to Rolfe Mansion in Illinois, which is the site of the first recorded spirit possession in the United States. We've also done certain places that are a little more challenging, different types of environments and things that you can run into to kind of better round ourselves as investigators. One of those places was the Mississinewa battlefield in Indiana, in basically what was the start of a pretty brutal winter. So we were out there in the snow. It was a good time, and I'll probably get into that story eventually as well, in a later subject. As I mentioned, I had success at capturing EVPs, very good ones, at Waverly Hills, but I guess I kind of had a knack for it because a lot of the different places that we would go, I would have some pretty good results as far as capturing different spirit voices on tape, or what one could say is a spirit voice. Due to moving to Texas, I had to leave the group and haven't exactly been able to get out and do any field work recently, though the paranormal and ghosts are still one of my main interests, and I've done as much as I can to kind of stay up to date with all the current techniques and experiences and evidence that people have. or claim to have. One of the things I enjoy doing is debunking work, figuring out natural explanations for what people consider the paranormal, which is another topic I think that down the road we'll have an episode about to kind of get into deeper. With that said, some of the other topics we're going to touch on in future episodes will be cryptozoology, both of the common types and the extraordinary types, with the difference of those being obviously that the common types would be creatures or animals that are undiscovered currently, but could possibly actually exist, that seem more feasible to science than some of the more extraordinary types, which what would be considered your basic monsters that people talk about or see or claim to see and experience in not only the United States but all throughout the world. Some other things we'll talk about eventually in some future episodes will be different types of strange happenings throughout history, like unexplained disappearances. We'll talk about items that have been found in places that just aren't possible, that science hasn't been able to explain. We'll touch on different types of UFO type experiences that people have. There's quite a few topics and subjects that we'll be able to get into. I'll try to work in some of the more lesser known ones, as I think that a lot of people would be more interested in hearing some of those because they might learn a thing or two that they might not have known previously. However, tonight we're going to be talking about a subject that I think a lot of people have actually had personal experience with and maybe not realized it. And I am speaking of sleep paralysis, also known as waking dreams, Old Hag syndrome. My main reason for speaking on that on the first episode is that I actually just had my first experience with what I think was a waking dream and sleep paralysis. For those of you that might not know what sleep paralysis actually is, I'll go ahead and read off what is a scientific description of it. That way everyone who might not know a lot about it will have kind of a general idea of what it actually is. Sleep paralysis is a phenomenon in which people, either when falling asleep or awakening, temporarily experience an inability to move. It is a transition state between wakefulness and rest characterized by complete muscle atonia, which means muscle weakness. It can occur at sleep onset or upon awakening, and it is often associated with terrifying visions, such as an intruder in the room, to which one is able to react due to the paralysis. It is believed a result of disrupted REM or REM sleep, which is normally characterized by complete muscle atonia that prevents individuals from acting out their dreams. Sleep paralysis has been linked to disorders such as narcolepsy, migraines, anxiety disorders, and obstructive sleep apnea. However, it can occur in isolation, and what that means basically is that you don't have to be necessarily experiencing any one of those things, but you can still have a waking dream happen to you. And of course I meant unable to react to the sighting based on the paralysis. I believe I said able to, but it's of course unable to react because you are paralyzed. Now, the main thing that you want to focus on in that description would be the part about having terrifying visions and feeling as though there's an intruder in your room, because I think that's really the thing that kind of brings all the different types of cases of a waking dream into the paranormal world, because not only can it explain people seeing or thinking they see ghosts, but also seeing demons, which is like the old time version of it. That's why it's called Old Hag syndrome. People would see witches, they'd see demons, really religious people back in the old times. That was what their reasoning was for it. The modernization of that would be people seeing what they think are aliens in their room during an abduction, which causes them to be paralyzed when really it's just a waking dream. Other people see shadow people. Some people see like grotesque monsters, things like that. So it kind of like covers a lot of the different topics that we'll eventually be talking about more in depth, all into one. And I wanted to start with that because I just recently, as I mentioned before, had my own personal experience with a waking dream and felt that it was a good place to start. I've known about the subject and what it is and what causes it and the different feelings people have, the feeling of being paralyzed, feeling someone pressing on you while you're laying in bed, seeing things, and all of that. So I kind of had an idea of, of what they were and everything, but still, when it happened to me, I was not expecting that at all, and I think I went through probably what everyone who's ever had one went through in terms of the feelings. To get into it more, it was probably about 1:30 in the morning. I had the TV on in my room, which I don't often do, because I like sleeping in the dark, and I had the sound turned down, not completely, but enough, I guess, and I was kind of drifting in and out of sleep, that kind of fuzzy, weird stage, which is one of the main times that people actually do have a waking dream, is when they're in that kind of half and half awake, half asleep stage. But I remember hearing, with my eyes closed, I remember hearing my bedroom door open, and that pressure in the room, the sensation that you get when someone enters your room, kind of overcame me. That's when my body, I guess, was trying to catch up with my mind, and I was able to open my eyes and look towards the door, and from what I could see, the door was open. There was a figure standing in the doorway that quickly made its way across my room, that isn't all that big anyway, but it seemed like it took a while for whoever it was to come in through the doorway, and the entire time my mind's racing. I'm trying to figure out what exactly is going on. I knew that nobody was supposed to be in my apartment at the time, so I had the feelings of, is this an intruder? What's going on? Who is it? But for whatever reason, it wasn't enough to get me to actually get up and confront whoever was in my room. I couldn't really tell exactly, the size of the person, but I knew, I could sense that it was a person. And I watched them, like I said, come across the room, and I remember seeing the light from the TV be blocked out on the wall behind whatever it was, or whoever it was. And still, this whole time, I'm just laying on my back, kind of on my side, watching whatever it is come over. I feel it sit at the end of my bed where my feet are, and I feel the pressure of their body on my legs, and I guess you could say I started to panic a little bit more, because now not only is someone in my apartment, in my room, when no one should be, but now they're sitting on me, and I don't know who it is, and I guess I'm more freaked out than I was before. So I start to try to focus my eyes and see exactly who it is, and all these different people are running through my mind on who it is, but I realize that it didn't make sense, because there shouldn't have been anybody in my apartment at all. So, again, I was, my heart started to race. I started to panic a little bit more, and I was trying to will myself to focus on who it was and see who it was, but also try to speak out and try to move to get, away from the situation, or just figure out what was going on in the first place. And I remember focusing my eyes a little bit more, and the person who it was, or at least who I thought it was, who shouldn't have been there at all, that was the shape that the shadow person, you could say, though it's not an actual shadow person, I'm guessing, but it became the shape of that person, only their face was blacked out, so I couldn't actually see, and that was kind of made me obviously even more nervous and didn't know what to do or what to think. So I did all I could to kind of force myself into moving, and to try to get myself to either wake up or realize, like, hey, what is this? Like, what's going on? Or, like, is there anybody actually here? Like, there can't be anybody here, so it's obviously not someone here. So I guess just realizing that in my mind got me to reach out with my arm and my hand and try to feel who was sitting on my legs. And as soon as I reached out, I felt someone there. I was touching someone's arm as they were sitting on me, and they were getting closer. They were moving their entire body up towards me. And so, I mean, obviously those feelings of, okay, is there really someone here now? Now there has to be, because I'm feeling them set my body and my mind into overdrive. And I felt, that severe sense of worry and panic that people talk about. and that was enough to actually wake me up. And when I woke up, there was obviously nobody in my room. The TV was still on. The door was closed. And what actually happened was I had reached out with my left arm and was feeling my own right arm that was up in the air, which I had thought was whoever it was sitting on my legs. But as soon as I woke up and I realized that, I was dreaming, it wasn't actually real, the sensation of the person sitting on my feet went away. There was nothing there. Obviously, I was almost wide awake now because all that adrenaline, I guess, pumping through me got me to wake up. And as I said, I've studied the subject of waking dreams, sleep paralysis, and all that, so I knew the symptoms, and I knew right away, basically, that was what happened, though it did not stop me from actually going around my apartment checking for somebody, even though I knew there was nobody there. So, yeah, that's my experience with sleep paralysis. It's definitely exactly what people say it is. There's no question of that now. There really does feel like there's a presence in your room. There's someone sitting on you or putting pressure on your body. For me, it was on my legs. A lot of people feel it on their chest or their stomach area. I guess for me, it was just down at my legs where I couldn't move my legs at all. And as I mentioned before, because I think that because I knew the experience and what it was, even in the back of my mind while it was happening, I knew what it was. I kind of tried to rationalize who it was in my mind. That's why they took the shape of the person who I assumed it could be, but even though it couldn't at any way have been them. And I can see how other people who have different beliefs and different things on their minds experience different types of creatures or beings or aliens or whatever that comes into their place, their room while they're sleeping, and they experience this sleep paralysis. So it's one of the things that a lot of people have happened to them, and more than once. A lot of people, there's certain people that experience it more than once, though it's only usually common for someone to have it once or twice in their lifetime. But like I said, there are people that have common reoccurring cases of this, and if they don't know anything about it, they haven't spoken with their doctors, they haven't looked it up online or anything, they could easily, and I can see why, assume that, yeah, this creature came into my room, or this person came into my room, or this ghost or this monster or whatever was in my room, it was on me, it was touching me, and hey, my house is haunted, I'm an alien contactee, or whatever you want to, whatever that person individually experiences, it can definitely seem like a real thing. And if you don't know much about it, then that's definitely a reason to assume rather than even bother looking up to see what it actually could be. With that said, I think we'll go ahead and end tonight's show there. I basically just wanted to kind of share a little bit about myself and about the connection between nighttime visitations and spirit sightings and all that, and how they tie into sleep paralysis and waking dreams, Old Hag syndrome, and also share my personal experience with it. It definitely was the kind of thing that you, at the time, would rather not have it happen, but after the fact, I'm kind of glad that it did, because now I know that what those people are feeling feels 100% real, and it's not that they are crazy or they're seeing things. It's just that to them it felt completely real, and if they don't know any better, then of course they're gonna try to look for a somewhat logical explanation, be it normal causes or the paranormal. Now, as far as next episode, I think we're gonna go ahead and talk on, as I mentioned earlier, the different cases of disappearances that have occurred throughout history. We'll talk about the different types and possible causes of them, including some theories that people have in regards to time slips, portals, and we'll talk about more likely realistic cases and causes for those disappearances. And with that, I thank you for listening. Hopefully the next episode I'll kind of have things more ironed out, you could say, and we'll get the flow down a little bit better, and hopefully have a better formatting idea since then. With that, I hope that you'll check me out on Twitter If you have any ideas for future shows, go ahead and drop me a line there. If you have any suggestions, I'm open to it. This is my first podcast, and I don't have a lot of experience in running one, so we're going to go ahead and just kind of do it as we go along and hope that some people at least find it somewhat interesting. But with that, I thank you for listening, and good night and goodbye.